So a very warm good morning to all. Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir, Professor R.K. Kohli, Dean Academic Affairs, Professor P. Rama Rao, and Dr. Aarti Srivastava from NIEPA, coordinator of this project, Dr. Vinod Arya, and director of this TLC project. He is not here, Dr. Vinod Kumar Garg. I formally welcome you all in the National Workshop on Philosophical and Methodological Foundations in Social Sciences. Dear VC Sir, we have received very overwhelming response to this national workshop, and we have received about 37 participants are actually participating, which are from all across the different states of the country, comprising of Tamil Nadu, Odisha, UP, Madhya Pradesh, and of course Punjab. And they all belong to different disciplines like commerce, management, economics, sociology, history, literature. And from the participants' point of view, because most of you all are new to this place, we, Central University of Punjab, established in 2009, and since then we are growing very rapidly. And we have currently more than 20 departments, more than 100 faculty members, and more than 1,000 students. So we are largely characterized by the unity and diversity which is there in the campus and which you will come to know while you stay at this campus. And as per in the words of Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir, we always compare ourselves with the big universities in terms of per capita basis. So we are young, but still we are growing. But and if we compare on per capita basis, we are maybe much ahead of even the older universities. With respect to this teaching learning center, so we got this project in the beginning of this year under the Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya National Mission on Teacher and Teaching Scheme. And it is one of the 25 centers which are established across the country. And within this TLC at CUPB, we have 6 different disciplines comprising of sociology, economics, history, literature, and environment science. And we have actually twin objectives, 2 major objectives which on the basis of which we have got this project. And one of those objectives is to comprehensively enrich intellectual traditions in Indian context and shifting away from the dominant Eurocentric perspectives. And second is the enriching methodology of teaching and learning process by focusing on analytical and problem-solving approaches. So in the backdrop of these 2 objectives which we have framed through this teaching learning center, what we seek through this workshop is to find or to look into the evolution and development of the social sciences. So what I personally strongly hypothesize is that this development of social sciences or evolution, we can say it largely taken place in Eurocentric and based upon Western philosophies. But the sad part of this so-called Western philosophy is that these philosophies are largely adopted as such in Indian context. So as a resultant of which we quite often fail to understand the problems in Indian context. So during this course of 5 days, you will be learning more about all these different kind of approaches based upon the Western philosophies and some indigenous philosophy which can replace them. And I hope that you all will enjoy your talks in due course of time. So I will not take too much of your time. I will conclude here. And now with these small words, I would like to call Professor P. Rama Rao to say a few words. Thank you, sir.
Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor R.K. Kohli, Madam Srivastava, coming all the way from the New Delhi in this winter morning. Let us actually understand a few points coming to the topic, that is Teaching Learning Center. And thanks to UGC MHRD for taking the initiative in bringing up actually the research input. I think 2 weeks before, on 25th October 2018, MHRD under the aegis of ICSSR, they started actually a program which is called Impactful Policy Research in Social Sciences, that is IMPRESS. This actually, the website is inaugurated, the MHRD minister, that is actually practically 15 days before. The main, actually, the fundamental point, what I want to convey this particular thing, there are several reports indicate that research in the social sciences is lagging behind in India and compared to the sciences. So in this particular case, this particular actually the interest program, the main object is to encourage actually the social science research so that actually the policy matter, implementation and evaluation of various actually the programs, they are actually open for several actually the broad thematic areas and an impression are given. I'm not going to talk in this actually the inaugural session. The programs mentioned are 11 programs, broad areas. One can actually submit the project proposals in actually research methodology, research actually in the social sciences, which actually having a direct impact on the society. So in that particular case, the guidelines are very clear and very beautifully written. And in that particular case, how much actually the institutional overhead charges, everything is very clearly mentioned in this particular guidelines, which are actually available on the website. I'll leave actually the copy of this particular thing. The fundamentally, the knowledge we have to gain, certainly science people follow the scientific methodologies and actually get the information, and that actually the scientific principles need to be translated to the benefit of actually the everyone in the society. So that actually is we are not able to translate to the same extent what Western people are actually doing it. The fundamentally in the West, it is SOPs and actually the evidence-based actually information. They try to translate whatever the basic research which is scientifically proven is applied, and they get actually the benefit, social benefit, and it is translated into the case. Somehow in the Oriental learning, especially in the Indian philosophical aspects, we actually follow the Guru Deva Bhava, and we have not provided actually the scientific evidences for various basic principles, though the science was very much advanced in ancient India. So in that particular case, how to translate our traditional, in that particular case, philosophical values or philosophy into actually methodological aspects need to be understood, and the benefits of these particular scientific principles are actually any problem solving mentality. As I said, critical and problem solving mentality needs to be developed. So that is the idea behind actually the teaching and learning actually the center, which comes under actually Madan Mohan Malviya's scheme. There are two schemes in that thing. One is actually capacity building. That is in our actually university is also having that particular project that is under the education department, and in the social sciences this teaching learning center has come. Out of 25 centers, this is one actually that particular center which is in the scheme. So in that particular case, I welcome you all, the delegates who have come from length and breadth of the country and actually participating in this actually 4 days actually workshop. In that particular case, yes, certainly as it is introduced, we are very young. In another 3 months, we are completing a decade of the establishment of this university, and that is one of the actually the landmark history. We can actually talk about it. Certainly, we are still actually for certain reasons beyond our actually the control staying in this particular transit campus. We have actually space limitations, but we are actually par with any other actually university in India, and I am sure and certain you will actually get benefited. I once again welcome you all. If at all any problems are there with respect to any of this thing, please bear with us. Thank you very much, and I hope you will have a very good interaction.
Thank you so much, sir, for your nice words. Now I would like to invite Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Aarti Srivastava to say a few words to the participants.
Respected Madam Srivastava, my colleagues, Varmaji, colleagues from other institutions and the university. I am here just to express my thanks to Madam for conceptualizing these teaching learning issues. I am told that she is behind this scheme. And thanks to Vinod Arya for taking initiative from our university. I think, as is written here, teaching, learning, both ends, they cannot be separated. Each teacher is a learner. Each learner is a teacher. Right from the childhood, without formal learning, we have learned and we are still learning many things. Here the issue is that we are trying to copy whom? The West. Why? We believe that they are successful. May it be any field. I am an ecologist. I know what are our problems. We have to apply our mind in solving our problems, not to follow the path which is created by the West. If we understand this little issue, that whatsoever we have learned by formal or informal or through experience, we have to apply it in solving the problem. These days, there are problems in the region, North India. There are problems in the whole country. In the North India, you know, this smoke and smog, whatsoever you call it. In terms of economics, I many a times wonder why the economists of the country do not come up with the economic solutions. It is only based on economics. The farmer wants that I should earn more. In the process, he tries to find a way which is the easiest and most economical. Economics, yeah, no? You should have thought of certain methods to tell the farmer that this way you are spending more. You know, I am an ecologist. I was working on eucalyptus. Everybody was planting eucalyptus. And the farmers, Rayat Sangam is an organization of, it is still there. I am talking of late 80s. Rayat Sangam organization in Karnataka is an organization of educated children of the practicing farmers. They felt that because of eucalyptus, our land gets dried up. And they had taken a pledge to uproot eucalyptus. They were put behind bars. It came in the newspaper. You know, I got interested. Why it is so? So, I am not going to tell, speak more because I am short of time. Otherwise, I have talked to many of my colleagues. That we need to apply our mind to the economic issues of the farmers. It is a social problem and it is related with each and every individual of the country. Likewise, when we talk of social issues, the problems of salary of the teachers. The regional issue. What I am trying to hit at is that there are issues which are bothering us all. And we are intellectuals. We are not to follow the path, political path of any party. We are to think in our own ways, to come up with the solutions. This eucalyptus issue, I came up with the solution. I came up with the how to deal with it. What are the reasons behind it? And now the whole world has changed the path. My point is that in this teaching learning center, which under this program of Pandit Madan Mohan Malia scheme, is a very good scheme. Second point I want to carry with you is, you are all teachers. If we do not change with the changing world, we will lag behind. It is an initiative of the government. And I appreciate it in real sense of the word. Whatsoever, madam, your input has gone into, these are appreciable inputs. We, the young universities, we have taken up and we want to change with the changing scenario. You are all young. You also need to change. The way you were taught, those ways you already know. And on coffee table discussions, you always criticize. Now the time has come with you to correct the mistakes. So, in 5 days tenure, you will be interacting with the experts. An energetic, dynamic team has selected people based on the curriculum they have designed. So you will get benefited, I am pretty sure about it. We are always focused. We don't go, diffuse our focus. Therefore, you also, I wish, maintain the focus and learn. Then you will lead in your own institutions to carry forward this message. And unlucky I am in the sense that today I really wanted that I should attend such stormy sessions. But because of my own responsibilities, I'll have to leave early. My good wishes to the organizers, good wishes to you all, and to all those who are to come to interact with the participants. Wish you all the best, good health, happiness. Thanks so much.
Dear participants, it's now time for the much awaited talk by the keynote speaker. So for this talk, I would like to invite Vinod Arya to introduce today's speaker. Please, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Nilesh. So formal welcome once again, and from the morning I think it's the third welcome which I am giving, but this is formal welcome. And before I introduce, with the honor of Central University of Punjab, Bathinda, and on behalf of Teaching Learning Center at CUPB, I feel this honor and privilege to introduce the key resource person of today, Dr. Aarti Srivastava. But before that, let me share with you, as we are now, and we will in these 5 days, we will work as a team as we have done in the past, 1 week workshop which was organized by sociology. So this time how we will go, and before that, to the whole team together, I would like to share few things which are very important, is that this has been, although our humble Vice Chancellor has given us the credit, but the point is, beyond the young team, our senior professors have given us the whole guidance and confidence to carry forward these things. Like our Vice Chancellor has been there to support this project, our Dean of Academic Affairs, and we have interacted hours and hours on these issues to get basically or formulate the objectives and methodology of this teaching learning center. And not to forget, in absentia, our Again, very dynamic director, Professor V.K. Garg, who is there for us always, every time he is ready to do anything. So we are on that confidence and support we are working, and we are able to work very smoothly here. Let me now have this opportunity to introduce our speaker, Dr. Aarti Srivastava. As it has been told that she has been one of the key person, or it is basically this teaching learning center throughout all India is brainchild of ma'am and few more resource persons like Professor Sudhanshu Bhushan. She is an associate professor at National Institute of Educational Planning and Administration at New Delhi. Her academic career is she got a doctorate. She earned her doctorate in economics of education from Jawaharlal Nehru University. Her thesis was entitled Caste Factors in the Labour Market, a study of IIT and HBTI. Her MPhil is on educational studies again. She has also done masters in two disciplines, economics and education. And her work experiences include a whole range of institutions from BHU Varanasi to colleges of University of Delhi. Then she has also taught in Meerut, Agra, National Labour Institute, Noida. She has worked with the ILO project and Institute of Applied Manpower Research in Planning Commission. Then she has IGNU and Bhoj, Bhopal University Center. Her research works include status of implementation of scale of pay, teachers in colleges, as our Vice Chancellor was discussing about the pay scale. So she has, and we will be benefited out of her rich experience how to not only focus on teaching and learning, even to include these aspects which are very relevant and contemporary for us also. Then she has also worked for Skills for Employability in South Asia, Rockefeller Foundation. She has commissioned paper on population and corporate social responsibility for ASSOCHAM in 2011. She has done evaluation of model college scheme for MHRD in 2013. Her consultancy projects include NCRT, CBSE, Wisconsin University, USA, UGC resource person for capacity building for women, NIOS consultant, and IGNU. Her publications include, and I am telling you the major ones only, EFA MDA Delhi Report by UNESCO 2007, Women and Disability, a chapter published by BHU Varanasi, School Development Plan published by IGNU in 2013, Gender Education and Employment, UNDP, published in 2015, Youth Education and Employment in India, published by Sage Publication in 2015, and she is teaching the courses Research Methodology, Education and Development, Gender and Development, Perspectives on Indian Education and Indian Higher Education. And her training part includes research educational for professional functionaries engaged in education, and she has been engaged in establishing teaching learning centers of higher education as per 12th plan, which we are part of that. She is also life member of at least 10 major organizations, so I am not going to name them. And on that note of that rich experience, we invite our key resource person of today, Dr. Aarti Srivastava, please.
Thank you so much, Vinod, for that grand introduction, which I don't think so I deserved. I just jotted down some points and sent it across. Slightly embarrassing to know things which are beyond, what one really embodies. So I joined Vinod and the Teaching Learning Center here in welcoming you all to this great workshop. Hope you'll have a good time, 5 days, great time in learning and, and carrying forward this experience to your own institutions. Thank you, sir, for coming and giving us your profound guidance, and I wish this whole workshop a grand success. So, while I want to begin, because I am placed in the Department of Higher Education, they are at NIEPA. NIEPA is a National Institute of Education Planning and Administration under the Ministry of Human Resource Development. So we actually multitask, we teach, we research and we also do training and are an extended arm of the ministry, in the sense that whenever the ministry gets stuck, they seek our advice for technical support. So the UGC pay scale was, requested by the UGC, because they didn't know how the previous pay commission was implemented. So they commissioned 4 research projects, out of which I carried out 1. And then of course the model colleges of how they were doing and how to continue them. So that task was also given. And besides that, the teaching learning centers, if you look at how education actually gets funding, it is through till very recently, before our planning commission was rechristened as Niti Aayog, it was through the plan. So the 11th plan was actually the education plan, which talks about major funding came through there, and it is because of the funding in the 11th plan that all these 10 central universities actually found the light of the day. So we saw that the major funding happened in the 11th plan, and in the 12th plan there were 2 new concepts that were added to education section of the planning commission. One was subject-based networks and the other was teaching learning centers. Now these 2 things came up because it was somebody's idea, but how it would really be embedded in the Indian context, nobody knew. So as our Vice Chancellor said, that we should know how it is being done in India. So I spearheaded the teaching learning centers and we submitted a report, but the implementation is where it took a little different route. We said that the academic staff colleges or the HRDCs should be given the status of teaching learning centers. Out of the 66, 25 of them may be given some additional funding because they already have the infrastructure and all, and additional support to become teaching learning centers. In that sense, we'll be optimally using the already existing resources to enhance them. But then, separately there were new ones that were established, and Punjab University Bathinda got one, and many of them have been taken away by the technical institutions. You see the maths is with the NIT Warangal, IIT Chennai, and so many of them have been taken away by the technical institutions, which is fine in a way, but also that there is a little more focus on just technology and apps and the platforms and e-ways of doing things, which may really not suffice or be enough to solve the problem of teaching learning as it exists in India today. So with that, the question is, why should we invest so massively in higher education, and what does it do to development? Why should we? So higher education, if you look at the history of higher education, we see that all the countries which have seen, which are the most developed countries, have invested for not only decades but centuries together in research. And that's how they have come to that area of development. Look at US. Boeings, where are they made? The best drugs, the best technology, the best arms. So that is how they've invested for several centuries, 3 centuries constantly. They kept investing in all the sectors of concerns, and they were able to come out with the best. And that's how they became the capitalist country and are in the position of so-called the unipolar world, the strongest country in the world. It is only through research. Higher education is not like, only teaching, learning and coming out. It is through research. That is how the school sector differs from higher education. Because higher education, nothing is given. And I will come to that, how the process of knowing, sir had mentioned about, our traditional ways of knowledge and how this thing, I've got it all here. So, but what really we need to do is to invest in research. But what happens in India? We see that, if you look when a new government comes, the main scramble or the fight is for who gets the home ministry, who gets the defense and who gets the finance. A person who does not get all these 3, will get education, not the most powerful ministers. right? And also if you look at funding, the funding is also, very limited in education. We've been talking about 6% of the GDP coming to education, but we have just been able to touch about 4.1% in the latest rates also. So we've been asking since 1968 that at least the 6% of the GDP should come, and if we look at, compare the GDPs of what percentage GDP comes in, all the developed countries, many of them comes in double digit. Japan, US, Europe, they spend, more than 10% and all that. And we have been still talking for several years about only 6%, and we have not been able to get only 6%. That is like, you still, the government has 94 more per person to spend on other sector, but 6% is not really being given to education. So we are still in the toe. So when 4.1% of the money comes, then there is a fight. There's a fight between school and higher education. So the school takes up a lot of money because there's right to education now. So every child has to have a right, so there have to be schools and all that, which I think is very essential, because right to education is so fundamental, because that ensures you for any other right. So it is like, food, clothing and shelter, that without having basic literacy skills, you are not able to negotiate any of the life spaces. So that becomes, so majority of the money comes to school education. Now whatever is left comes to higher education. Right? And then we have a very hierarchical mindset where we say that science is, the natural sciences, is at a higher level. So much of the funding goes to sciences, and that's how Sir was saying that now the Impress scheme to give, more to social sciences. But now let's look, how important social science is. Today, if we say we are sitting in a very technological environment, but we can still survive without the ACs. We can still survive without the PowerPoint. I'm still talking to you without a PowerPoint, and I'm sure you will enjoy what I have to say to you. Right? I necessarily do not use to have, have to use a PowerPoint. So what I'm meaning to say is that you can survive without technology even to date. But if I say that you have to survive like a Gulliver travel, one person on one island and no connection with any human being, it's extremely difficult to survive. You will be all the time looking, at least let me find somebody in the island whom I can communicate with. Even if he doesn't know the language, at least we can sit together and share, whatever is there. So it is very difficult to survive without a human being together, but we can still survive without technology. We can still find substitutes to air conditioners, the refrigerators and the cooking gases that, have enabled us all. I'm not saying they're bad. They really change our life because they make our life much cozier, much easier, but we are still able to survive without them. But can we survive without social science? No. We are given a geography, we have a history, and wherever we have a geography, history and a human being, the sociology automatically comes in, and then the political economy, so the politics and the economics also comes in. So this is the core of our being, and rest of it is making our lives even cozier and better beyond this whole thing. So that is how social science is so very important, that yes, science for the use of human beings for human beings, and secondly before science. So this is what is one has to really understand. So we see that the hierarchy of knowledge also needs to be critiqued, because social science is something that we really need to really work on, and how do we work on that? It's through massive investment that the government has taken some steps, and we are seeing that the teaching, learning and all, and I'll tell you why this becomes all the more central as we talk about it in higher education. Now if we look at India, we talk about research, but Indian systems, we see that most of you people are privileged to be, I don't know how many of you are from central universities, but I'm sure some of you are from colleges also, and colleges, and we at the National Institute, we go to the remotest of the colleges and we see the working conditions. We talk about research, but when there is no electricity, when they do not have access to textbooks, when they don't have access to journals, how do we ask them to do research? I'm telling you of one example. We were doing a consultative meet as an input to the new policy, which is still in the making, has not been announced. So one of the principals, he came from Chhattisgarh. He had a batch of about 100 science students without a lab, without a furniture. All furniture that college had was one table, a few chairs, No lab, and still he showed, 100% pass percentage of the science students. They were using the labs of the school, right? And somehow, and ad hoc teachers and guest teachers, and somehow being able to show a result of pass students in that particular college. So this is the reality. Now, when this is the reality, what do we say? How do these people do research? Now, so obviously art is basically, till recently, before we got into this ranking scramble, we were basically a teaching culture. First thing was that we were, fairly recently independent, where our education took a back seat. We had the first policy on education only in 1968. Right? So from 1947 to 68, we did not have a policy on education. And the only other policy that we have on education is the 86 policy. So, so many years of independence, but just 2 policies. And where, we see that this area is a very dynamic area, because everything within this education is changing. The social class is changing, the economics is changing, historically we are adding on every bit. So every aspect, the psychology is changing and everything is changing. And with this changing, education actually has to capture all these changes and put across in a way that is able to be understood by the government and the policy makers, so that they can understand the shifts and make the relevant changes. But we see that we are unable to do that at all. So why? See, we have 4 ways of knowing, and I'm sure many more lectures will tell you, the ways of knowing here is basically 4. The first one is the tenacity. What Sir was saying, Guru is the ultimate source of knowledge, and you cannot question. So whatever is accepted is accepted. If I tell you, it's that same thing that, sun rises in the east and sets in the west. How many of you agree? How many of you agree the sun rises in the east and sets in the west? Come on, raise your hands. All of you. Who doesn't agree? Just one. I think he is the correct one. Sun neither rises, neither sets. It's the motion that keeps changing. We experience it as, rising from the east and setting in the west, but actually it doesn't do anything. Sun is static. It's the earth that is moving, and therefore we feel that it rises this side and this side, right? So that's the correct answer, but that is what is called as tenacity. We have accepted that, and all of you belonging to higher education also say yes to it. Leave the children. Leave the children. But all of you say that is tenacity, that is that we accept certain thing as given, and we don't want to question that, which is fundamentally wrong, because we need to question. And I'll tell you why. The second is, the authority. How can I question? It has been said by X scientist or Y scientist, how can I question? So we do not question. So the next way is that, okay, so and so is said, it's given in this text, that text, and I will not quote any text, but I can give you examples, but I don't want to waste time on that. So the authority. So that's another way of knowing, what is given. The third is the reasoning, which we call as a priori, right? So reasoning. So what is reason? So reason can be faulty. They can be logical fallacies, lots of things happen. And the fourth is the scientific way of knowing. The scientific is the best way of knowing, because it is evidence-based and it can be proved, QED. And that's what Sir was saying, that, evidence-based researchers are focused, and that is both in social science and natural sciences. Evidence-based is both. It is not only in social sciences, it's in both natural sciences as well as this. You'll be surprised to know that, even the medical stream also uses the same methods of social sciences. What medicine may be suiting you may not be suiting to this person. You might be allergic to that. So it is only, when they do their recording, even at AIIMS, and I've gone and seen, and they say, is that they record, and then they apply the same SPSS to come out with conclusions to say this is suitable to this kind of people, this genetic domain, these kind of parameters, and this may not be suitable for these kind of people. So they also use the same thing. Our science is not very different from the science as we know them as science. So, that hierarchy is what I'm trying to question, that everything scientific is science, and not really the science as we know and social science as we know. Now, again, why this mission came up and why we need to really focus on teachers is because it's the teachers who make the difference. You know, we can be sitting in this air-conditioned room, or we can be sitting under a tree. If it's a nice sunny morning, we can enjoy a class with the nature. Right? But it's the teacher who has to be effective. It's the teacher who has to know what kind of students are coming. Constantly, when I was talking to Dr. Vinod, who was the coordinator, I was trying to ascertain what kind of participants from which kind of fields. So after doing that, you know, I was reading upon what all should I be able to carry here. And also, you know, when I got to know there are some people from literature and one from environmental science also, I tweaked so that, you know, I'm not too much biased towards social science only, so that the other lot gets this thing. So one is to understand, and we have to know that the learners have really gonna see change with the MOOCs, with the distance education coming into a big way. We know that the students have gone into a big way a change. You know, I'm sure all of you are doing some online courses these days. If not, then in soon the ministry has come out with this thing that you have the academic staff college, you know, some of them, and even NIEPA, we have been given, we are discipline specific national resource center. So all the teachers in higher education will be mandated to do one or the other course as per their liking. You know, political science is in Jabalpur University, Rani Durgavati. Economics is in Mumbai University. Maths is in, I think, NIT Warangal, and so on and so forth. So you see that, you know, disciplines, so there are 75 disciplines, and every teacher in higher education will have to do one mandatory course every year in order to get promotion. So the learners have changed. You are not the learners who were like typically the students who've come to the class, who's looking at teachers, making your notes, and then giving, and then taking the exam and getting a score. Of course, these things will remain, but they will be very different from a typical student perspective. So, I mean, the changing profile of the learners is like somebody has done an analysis, and they have said that, you know, the learner profile is also changed. There is like rooted and the remote. You know, some students, like many of them are women students, they are very rooted. They will still leave their job because the husband wants them. They will still try to compromise because the son needs to get, but they are rooted, but they are remote. The second category is globalized and diaspora. Now you don't see a single family, especially in Punjab, that doesn't say that, you know, some or the other member is abroad and some or the other member is getting educated in a foreign country. So the globalized and the diaspora, they come up with a different perspective. They will not like the traditional education that Sir was talking about, that, you know, very traditional, you people have to make the change. So if you people have to make the change, you will have to see, you know, how the profile of the learners is so very different. The third kind of a category is, you know, the dropouts. You know, you see so many students dropped out, but then they took on to some other way and they have bloomed late. So there is the dropout and the late bloomers. This is the third category of learners that can come to you, and that can come to you in different ways and would want to learn. Then there is the left outs or the left behinds. That is why we talk about equity and reaching the unreached kind of students, so that, you know, we are able to be, you know, more overarching and giving access to all kinds of students who have been left behind. The second chance and the double dips. You see that so many, and especially you see in the gender category, that women drop out, but then if there is some problem in the family, they again take it up, and then they get a second chance in their lives, and they get double benefits of it by taking a break and coming. In fact, a lot of people are now trying to experiment that straight after school, they do not want to come for higher education. They want to just explore for a year to realize what they want to do, what is their real inner calling, in which they will be able to learn and deliver, and therefore they take a break and do all kinds of things and then come back to higher education and do it. So that is, you know, the second chance, this thing. Then there is this alternative lifestyle and the worldviews. Right? People with alternate lifestyles and the worldviews, these kind of learners are, you know, the ones who would, people you see that after doing the engineering, they become cricketers, they become musicians, and because they don't set into this whole thing of completing studies and taking out as a job. Their inner calling is somewhere else, and therefore they have an alternate view of life. They want to do things differently. I mean, Three Idiots, the movie, all of you have seen, you saw that, right? So they are, you know, the alternate lifestyles and the people with worldview of how the typical education system is critiqued, that you can just enter any class, you know, padhai to chal rahi hai. So you can learn from any class if you enter. You really don't have to follow a stream of thoughts to come out to, you know, to get the grade, and you can do well despite a formal system of education and a formal system of employment also. Also, then there are creative, innovating people, you know, who can do without schools, who can do without colleges, and then, of course, the behavior, the beehives and the production lines. They're so busy in their own process of, you know, trying to look for an employment and all that. So they know it from the very beginning that they have to master certain subjects, get into that kind of a job, and so they are hardly bothered about any other thing. So these are called the beehives and the production lines. Now, having said that, the teachers are so very important, and the classification of students have undergone a sea change, a big change. So what is it that is doing to the social sciences? Now, you see that there are internal shifts in the social sciences. Over a period of time, there are certain subtle shifts that are taking in the sciences, the way scientists have been thinking, whether they are social scientists or the natural scientists. So there are shifts in sciences, and the history of science will reveal, you know, what shifts are taking place, and I'm sure you'll have more sessions on that. So the shifts are taking place. Then there are changes in the economy, because nothing will move without that economic input. It becomes so very important. So there are structural changes that are taking place in economics, and then you have the relationship between the state and the science. You know, how the state is funding. The state, these three things are changing. You know, the three things that are changing is actually changing the way the science is actually being contested, how it is taking new molds and new shapes and new directions thereof. So with that in mind, you know, I want to bring out, you know, what changes are taking place from the point of view of the epistemic dimensions of science, and so I call it the revised epistemic norms of science. So what are these? First, earlier what did we have? Problem had to be solved in context governed by academic interest of the discipline characterized by homogeneity. So there was a problem, so the economist will solve. There's a problem, the sociologist will solve. There's a problem, the natural scientist will solve. But this was the traditional belief, right? This is what, and the shift that has taken place is, now problem solution is governed by context of application, transdisciplinary, right? That if we have a problem, many more people come from different disciplines, they come, and then they try to solve the problem. So it's a transdisciplinary thing, and knowledge is characterized by heterogeneity, right? Till now it was mode of homogeneity, right? And people were very strict. How can you use a sociological lens to an economic problem? But look, I can give you a very, very concrete example. The Human Development Index, you know, the whole frame was, you know, that economics doesn't solve any problem. Every rich person is not happy. The GDPs, the national incomes, per capita income give you a certain way how a person may spend money. But then doesn't mean that with all that money and comfort that person is really happy. So a number of general posters you may have seen, you can buy books but not knowledge, you can buy beds but not sleep, and all these emanate from all these things, and these are therefore, you know, articulated around that. So this is what I mean to say. Now single disciplines are being shunned, and you have new, you know, multidiscipline people taking up there. Then within an organization, what it does to an organization, organizationally hierarchy was the preserve, you know, that yes, this knowledge, this subject, but now the heterogeneity is transient, it's changing. You know, the heterogeneity is also changing. What can work, what cannot work, how, what will gel, not gel, and new shapes configure. You know, new ways of looking at things, new Venn diagrams keep coming up, right? Then we have, you know, what was happening traditionally was normative and disciplinary accountability, you know, the norm-based things. Now you have more of social accountability and reflection. So you have a shift from, if you see in social science research, you have a shift from quantitative knowledge to qualitative. Right? This is also you see in the beginning of the 21st, late 20th and 21st century. It is also, congruous with the postmodernism, where they say, okay, numbers don't speak loud. And I can tell you from gender, more girls in education system, more girls in employment. What does that show? Great going for women. Inclusive society. आप बताइए. It shows good results.
Sometimes maybe reverse discrimination.
Yeah. Why? Because the whole discourse on gender and development says that in order small incremental changes only leads to complications. The health indicators of women are going down. If the burden of household work is not shared equally, then the woman is doubled with the work of. In professional life, I am not given any soft corner because I am a woman. Because if I have to show my work, I have to work. I have to travel alone. I have to go. I have to deliver all what a man is doing. At home also, I have to manage everything. Be it Diwali celebrations or be it arranging for a daily meal. So what am I doing to myself? Doubling my work, and all my health indicators are going down, which will only come very slowly, and will show you that how the health indicators and the quality of life vis-a-vis the earlier generation who had just divided as per the division of labors in economics, that the women will take the household work and enjoy the rest of her life, and man will just do the earning part, and he will enjoy the rest of his life. So the equal free hours of man and women were comparatively equal. So it was a more equitous life vis-a-vis my studying and working hard and coming to whatever level that I have been able to achieve. So that's what I'm going to say. So here again then they said they're socially accountable and reflective, that you have to see, you have to understand the meaning within the sentences, and therefore you see more people coming for doing qualitative research. Also, more enduring homogeneous set of priorities working on problems defined by global and general context. Right? This is what was earlier being done, and now what is being done is more transient groups of practitioners working on problems defined by a specific and local conclusions. Earlier there was more global things, like this example of eucalyptus that the Vice Chancellor was taking, specific to prioritization and specific to the local context is what he's talking, and this is what we see the change that is happening even among the minds of the scientists that's happening. Right. So, now I'll come to the next part of my exposition, and saying that, restructuring, when the knowledge systems are changing, we also see a change in the organizations of the universities, what changes are taking place, and I call it the restructuring of traditional universities. The universities are also undergoing a change. Earlier, universities were not given these kind of training centers. Earlier, there were research institutes outside universities. All the institutions and the DST, sir, were separate from the universities, and all the university teachers were supposed to go to DST and get projects, while these centers would get projects automatically because they were part of DST. Similarly, in social science, the universities were doing more of teaching. The research was being taken up by ICSR, or Indian Council for Historical Research, or Indian Council for Philosophical Research, and this thing. And so a university teacher had to go, even today, except some places like NCRT and NIEPA and some other which I may not know of, most of them have to go outside their universities to get grant for their research. Right? So this was what was happening. So late in the 20th century, the idea of objectivity, value neutrality, and universality was critiqued. Today, forces of production and robust knowledge is what is being accepted. So the objectivity is being critiqued. Nothing is so really objective. What is objective is also being critiqued, that even so in so much of natural sciences also. So objectivity, value neutrality, and universality is being critiqued, and robustness of knowledge is what is being acknowledged. Then superiority of formal knowledge over tacit knowledge. We see that how you've seen the Ayush Mantralaya. For dengue, now you have Ayush Mantralaya gives you a homeopathic medicine which can prevent you from having dengue at all. So the superiority of formal knowledge over tacit knowledge, theory over practice, everything was, that okay, theoretically if you've done a research in social science, your thesis is best and par excellence. If you worked on Weber, on this and that, Vinod has gone off, but then, that thesis was, but practice was something that was shunned. But now it's the reverse, that there has been challenged. So, but now, with this reconfiguration and these are now more accepted. You can do theory, but theory without practice is something not really. So now in the methodological issues, what you see is not that you use more of mixed method research. Theoretically, yes, and also practice also you try to get it. So most of the social science research and about which I can speak with more confidence is because of the change in methodology. A lot of education people are now using more of qualitative research and more of mixed methods. So that is what, and qualitative research is taking up in a very, very big way, right? So that is what is happening. Engineering colleges, you see, are now engaging with social and cultural values at a global level. Like you see the entry, and this is what Yashpal committee report had said. The rejuvenation of college and university, he had said that, isolation of disciplines is something which is not really a welcome idea. We should have, so because every scientific discovery, engineering discovery is for the society only. So therefore, now these things are coming up in a big way. And therefore you see IITs, NITs are taking up, centers like teaching learning centers and other kind of lots of activities which have got more of social value and direct engagement with society that are coming up. So that is a change that is happening. Then integration of indigenous and local knowledge that is happening. Ayurveda, Ramdev Baba. Most of us, first try to see, what is to be taken from this thing. Although, there is a different altogether, people have found that, there's a lot of adulteration there also, but that is beside. But he has made that kind of, conceptually he's made that very popular. That we cannot deny. There may be lots of political ambitions behind it and lots of other things behind it, which I am not going in detail about. But yes, he has made the idea very popular, which we cannot say no to. So, the indigenous knowledge is now what is being talked about, and the new sciences have come up. The best two cases are cognitive science and the big data. Will transform and pluralize the knowledge institutions, the big data sets, the deep learning, the machine learning, the artificial intelligence, the deep learning and the surface learning, what all is there happening. So all those things are making, I was in IIT Kharagpur and people were talking, this 4-year DTech is actually a waste of time. This can be done in 2 years. So all these things with big data, with all these things happening, we are cutting down, and that will alter the contours of knowledge that we're talking about. So that is going to be altered by the knowledge that we're talking about. A new acronym has come, and I would like to place before you. It's called PLACE. PLACE. Proprietary, local, accountable, commissioned, expert knowledge. Right? So proprietary of knowledge is what is being questioned, what is local is being acknowledged, what is accountable is being accepted, whatever is commissioned is also, based on all these principles, and expert knowledge. These are the place is something which is finding a place in the realm of knowledge in a very, very big way. So then how does it alter a university? With that, I would like to end and take some questions. A university traditionally was, the university system commenced from the single community woven together by circumscribed ways of knowing, unified at a general level, but differentiated along disciplinary lines, contrary to lowering a particular diversion of labor and credibility. Now, what is being changed? Now, this was one typical way of thinking. Communities, people coming, professors, a range of teachers who coming with one discipline, trying to see things and trying to come out with, credible solutions. Now, what is happening is, university is being called a multiversity. It's a multiverse. One single. Multiversity is several things. A tripartite pluralistic institutions dealing with research, disciplinary specialization and diversification of curriculum. The curriculum is constantly diversifying, and the institutions are dealing with research, disciplinary aspect, but diversification of curriculum. Now you see that more and more, mutations are taking place within subjects, not the traditional ones, only biochemistry, but now you have something like bioengineering also. So many new mutations are taking place and new curriculum is being found, and that is what is changing the foundations of any scientific research. It's changed into a multiversity where new disciplines are arriving, new knowledge, new methodologies, new way of thinking is coming in, and we are shunning away with the traditional way of doing things in all respects that we are used to, right? So with that I conclude, and I can take some questions if you have any questions and answer them. So this is what technology does. Whenever you need it the most, it ditches you. I had a very interesting experience. I was actually doing an international conference where the panel was on IT. And I had a very high profile person who said, oh, I can attach everything to my Apple, this thing and all that. And that didn't work that day. It just didn't. So with that I conclude. I can take some questions. Yes. Yes.